Ready?
We're ready.
Yay! I love that you're able to tap into that inner child. Last week I shared with you all when I was the one facilitating that every time we would get ready for a game at our house, my little 2-year-old grandson at the time, Bailey, would start with this exuberant voice, "Ready?" And we knew it was time to begin. This morning, I'm calling out to you. Ready?
Yes.
Yes. Are you ready to launch into a life of infinite possibilities?
Yes.
Are you ready to launch into a life of thriving, to a life of prosperity? Ready?
We're ready.
Then you are at the right place at the right time. And I'm so delighted that you're here. On the screen behind me is an image of the Viking Dragon as it launched on June 29th at 5:45 a.m. Now, for those of you who know me, you know it is a miracle I got anything. A picture, that I was present, any of that, right? But I witnessed this sight at Jetty Park. And what was so amazing was to watch the engines fire up, and we were across the bay, so all we could see was this red glow that got bigger and bigger. And then to see the rocket take off. And there was this exact moment when you saw the rocket pierce the Earth's atmosphere and enter into infinite space. It was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. And it was a reminder to me that there is a whole world of infinite possibilities that is just beyond our vision. That just because we can't see something with our human eyes does not mean that it doesn't exist. And so as you see this image this morning, I want you to become aware of the fact that beyond your limited vision, beyond your limited thinking, there is an infinite realm in which prosperity resides. And you, my friends, have the power to pierce the veil. You do. It's within you. When I got back, I did some reading about NASA. It turns out that my friend that I stayed with, her parents actually worked at NASA. They came down from New Jersey to be employed with hundreds of other people. And do you know that in 1959, in May, John F. Kennedy, in front of the whole world, announced that the United States would be the first nation to put a man on the moon. Now, when he made that statement, no one had any idea how it was going to happen. In fact, all of the people watching were wondering if it was even possible for it to happen. And yet what we know is that there was a group of mathematicians and engineers and scientists, the brightest and the best in the nation, were gathered together. And in their imagination, they saw what was possible. They saw an image of what could be. Imagination fuels the rockets of our desire. We have to be able to see it for it to come into fruition. And so as I think about that rocket launching and that glow that got bigger and bigger as the engines fired up, this morning I ask you to fire up your imagination. Charles Fillmore believed that we come to this world with divine qualities already in place, that we are already preloaded to succeed, that we are already preloaded to live a thriving, abundant, prosperous life. And that one of those powers that takes us there is the power of imagination. Imagination begins with conception. So Merriam-Webster's dictionary talks about conception as first occurring in the mind, in the beginning. The Bible that we use as kind of a guidepost to help us evolve in consciousness begins with the words, "in the beginning," followed by God created. We think of that in Unity as kind of our 5 magic words for manifestation and creation, because it is a reminder that everything that could ever exist already does. That in the divine intelligence, in the creative energy that surrounds us, every idea already exists. It's merely waiting on us. It's merely waiting on us. And part of that, using our imagination to bring prosperity and abundance into our life, is about holding the vision of being able to see what is possible. Reverend Linda Martello-Whitsitt writes in her book, Divine Audacity, that what can be when we hold the idea and experience the feelings now that we expect to feel when our idea is made manifest. What does it feel like to be prosperous? What does it feel like to thrive? I remember a story that Edwene Gaines told us when I was on retreat with her. And she's a teacher of prosperity. And the story she told us was about how she and one of her friends decided they wanted to go to Mexico. They wanted to see the ocean. They wanted to be in one of those luxurious resorts and have a great time. And so one of the things they did is they pulled their money together and they went to the grocery store and they bought a really expensive jar of olives. Now I chuckled, I thought, olives? But they were the olives that were like stuffed with almonds, you know, the fancy kind. And they took that whole jar of olives and they set out in front of the pool at our friend's apartment complex. And they sat in their lounge chairs and they ate those olives. And they talked about how luxurious it was to be on the resort. How they were enjoying all this exotic food like olives stuffed with almonds. They held the vision. They acted as if they were already in Mexico. They acted as if they already had everything that they needed. And guess what? Before they knew it, all kinds of opportunities came to them. They got some kind of deep pocket discount, you know, because some people canceled, you know, and they got all this money and all the resources that they needed. And those 2 women went to Mexico because they held a vision in their minds. And because they were willing to embody that which they desired. And so they acted as though they were going. I'm wondering right now, do you carry yourself like a person who's thriving? Do you speak words that indicate that you are indeed prosperous and abundant? Do you act in a generous manner as though you know that the universe has your back and that you have everything that you need? Can you use your imagination to imagine a life where you're prosperous, where you're abundant? So I watched that rocket fuel up, and I saw it then break away from the structure that was holding it to the earth. If you look up launch in Merriam-Webster's dictionary, you'll find that one of the definitions is to release. What is holding you back. Martha Creek was here last week, and she talked to us about how our mind holds us captive if we are unwilling to question our thoughts. If we're unwilling to ask, is that true? Does what I'm thinking cause me to suffer? So in order to launch into this life of infinite possibilities, you have to be willing to release that which holds you down. Do your thoughts prosper you, or do your thoughts hold you in lack? I love the teachings of Abraham Hicks. And one of those teachings is that life is a huge buffet. Everything that exists is on the buffet. And as you go along, you get to pick and choose what you want. Thoughts are the same way. We get to pick and choose what we think and what we let go of. And Abraham says that when we use our minds to envision, to think about our heart's desire, that 17 seconds creates more momentum than 24 hours of trying to push through something. 17 seconds of envisioning what can be versus trying to push it through. I asked Bob to read the daily word for July 4th because it reminds us that every choice is a blessing, each one leading to different possible outcomes. So if you don't like where you're at, choose again. If your thoughts are limiting you, choose again. Break away from what's holding you here if it's not where you want to be. The next thing that happened was we watched as that light set off on a purposeful trajectory. One of the other words for launch is catapult. So it was catapulting through the air on a very direct, purposeful path. What purposeful action are you taking to be prosperous? What purposeful actions are you taking in your life to thrive? The daily word goes on to say that we celebrate our freedom to have the life we are imagining through thoughtful, purposeful action, making a positive difference in my life and in the lives of others. Purposeful action. For me, the thoughtful, purposeful actions that I take, one specifically, is in my giving. I give purposefully. I give thoughtfully. So I know that it looks like I go to Florida to teach SEE classes because I happen to love the ocean. And that's not exactly untrue. But I go purposefully. I go to and teach spiritual education and enrichment classes twice a year because it is a purposeful, thoughtful way for me to give. For me to inspire others. For me to help others see their highest potential. To see the next greatest version of themselves through the teachings of unity. It is a way for me to purposefully give of my time to a movement that has changed my life. That's why I teach SEE. I also do purposeful giving through monetary things. I believe in giving thoughtfully to people who inspire me. people who touch my heart, people who I know are making a difference in the world. And sometimes that looks like passing along a gift that had been given to me. And sometimes that looks like writing a check. And sometimes that looks like putting my hands on someone and blessing them. But it's thoughtful, purposeful action. And the other purposeful action I take that some of us don't think about is giving is not enough. In fact, some of us have made a habitual habit of giving so much that there's nothing left for us. That's not the kind of giving I'm talking about. Giving out of obligation, giving out of guilt, giving because somebody told us we should. Right? That's the kind of giving that drains your energy. That's the kind of giving some of us have been trapped in relationships of, where we become exhausted and tired. I'm talking about giving from your prosperity and abundance. Giving thoughtfully, purposefully from your heart. That unlimited source of giving. But giving is not enough. We also have to be gracious receivers. So I shared with several people last week that I taught prosperity this time, and it was wonderful to teach prosperity at an SEE class in Florida. And I stood before that group and I said, we can give and we can give, but to be in the flow, we have to give and we have to receive. And I said to them, I am a gracious receiver. I'm a gracious receiver. Linda Martello Whitsitt writes that the future we have been envisioning demands one thing of us. That we be the person who can live in that desired future. You see, the one thing I know about prosperity is the universe only gives to me in proportion to what I am able to receive. And so I said to that class, I'm a gracious receiver and I am wide open to anything that the universe wants to bring to me. And I can tell you that began a very prosperous, now 2 weeks for me. You know, I received handwritten affirmations expressing appreciation for me being there. I received these beautiful earrings that I have on today. I received free meals. I received some monetary compensation that I wasn't counting on that came from all kinds of interesting places. I was blessed by watching a dolphin swim before me during morning meditation on the beach one morning. And the prosperity keeps flowing my way. So if you want to receive, if you want to be more prosperous, be willing to receive and to be gracious in that receiving. A gracious receiver doesn't say, oh, no thank you. No, I know you love this top, but you know, really, I got it on the clearance rack, like really, right? A gracious receiver says, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have the opportunity to launch into a whole new realm. Just as that rocket set its purposeful course and at the right and perfect moment pierced the veil of limitation, we too can pierce the veil of our own limited thinking, our own limited way of being. We only have to be willing to start. We have to use our imagination and imagine what a prosperous life looks like. We have to be willing to release and let go of everything that binds us to a limited consciousness. And then we have to be willing to put feet to our faith and take purposeful, thoughtful action. And then the sky is no longer the limit. As Buzz Lightyear would say, to infinity and beyond. Is it today a beautiful day for a launch?
Yes.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Then affirm that with me. I am ready for a prosperous life. I am ready for a prosperous life. One more time. I am ready for a prosperous life. I am receiving a life of prosperity. I am receiving a life of prosperity. And so it is in infinite love and gratitude.
Yes.
Mm.